So for the last week, I have been working on the structure of my film. Before I went to the third draft, we decided to address some of the notes that we'd received from the executive producers and other people who were looking to fund the film to see how we could improve the structure and improve the way that the film flowed in order for us to make a better film, but also to get the funding that we need to actually make it. So one of the traditional ways of writing a script is to break it into 3 acts, and I'm probably sure if you've done any writing classes, or even if you haven't, you've heard of the 3-act structure. You have your first act, which has the inciting incident, so the moment that something changes for the character. And then you have Act 2, where most of the meat of the story happens, and Act 3, which is basically the resolution. Now, Act 1, 2, and 3 are not equal in size. Act 1 is usually around 15 to 20 minutes, then you have the bulk of everything in the middle, and then you have your conclusion. So one way of doing this is to create, you can create cards, and some people have seen pictures of a board with different cards on it, which actually we have on our wall, and some lovely blue tack and cue cards. For the first act, normally it's 15 cards. Act 2, which is split in half because you have the midpoint, which is the middle of the film. So you have 15 cards on either side, and then you have 15 cards for Act 3. It's really interesting because what we did, we kind of picked out the scenes that we thought were going to happen in a rejigged script. And then we kind of looked at the board and put them where we believed they would be, but realized that there's big chunks that had no action and actually needed to have substantial work on it. And the more and more that we talked it through and looked at it, we realized that we fundamentally had to change some of the motivations and some of the ways that the characters got to a certain place. We'd find a great sequence, but realize that we didn't know how we got into it. So it took us a good day for every 15 cards, which is almost as 1 act or half of Act 2. And so it took us 4 days to go through everything. And we knew the characters, we knew the world. So it made us reflect on this, going, okay, so it's taken us basically a week. So we had discussion, then we did the 4 days of going through the cards, then we went through the whole thing again, and even though we knew there's a few bits and pieces missing, we thought, we came out at a place that we thought this is a great new structure for the script that we're making. It made me realize that if you had a full 2 weeks, it'd probably take 2 weeks to create the entire idea and structure, which would then lead into the writing of the script. And I usually do about a week to do a first draft, and that's really rough and it's really on the nose. So characters aren't very subtle, but at least for me it's a blueprint to start developing and honing, and then probably another 3 weeks after that to make the script into something a little more solid. Of course you could spend months and months and months on it, but if you had 6 weeks of dedicated time, I think that would actually give you enough time to make a kind of a solid piece that you could continue to develop. We're off now to start the writing process, so really this is down to me. And so I'm listening to Johnny Cash and writing a horror film, basically. There are still some holes, I think, in it, but for me, I decided that I'm going to go through, and I've actually been just kind of writing out where the scenes are and what would happen in them. And then writing notes to kind of on the side saying, well, actually there's a hole here, why would he do this? But just placing it in so that I know kind of where everything sits, and then I can start developing the action and the dialogue that goes with it, and really put in that kind of subtlety into the characters and the kind of the motivations of what they're doing. So it's going to be an interesting week, and please do tune in next time to hear a little bit more about the writing process, turning the cards into an actual script that you can read. Please do subscribe to the channel. You can subscribe above. Also, check out last week's Killing Off Character, and one of my favorites, the series that we made last year, Raptured. You can also check that out, and that's actually something I'll be working on this year, and so you'll hear a lot about that as the months go on. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.